What do you think? What do you think, little fella? It's very hard not to look at him. So I have a sort of battle to retain your attention when Handsome here is grabbing his own attention. But that's okay. I love the guy, and so apparently a lot of you do too. He says he has an unofficial fan club, Otto does. Anyway, I'm Dennis Prager. I don't know if I even said that. I just might have said hi. Welcome to my home. It's really my home. Everything about this is authentic. Nothing is rehearsed. It is just a chance for me to offer you thoughts on some very important stuff. It's on my mind. And take your questions from literally all over the world, which we counted up, as I may have told you on a previous, I know I did, on a previous broadcast. I asked Megan, are you the producer? Is that a fair title?
Sure.
Who produces the Fireside Chat? You do.
There's no official.
There's no official? All right, so I'm unofficially dubbing you the producer. And she looked it up, and sure enough, we have gotten questions from viewers in 51 countries. So obviously, we don't get questions from every country. There must be 75, maybe 100 countries watching. And you know why? Because truth is universal. Culture is local, is particular. But truth and wisdom, and I'm not saying I'm Mr. Wisdom, but I'm trying to offer you wisdom, that's universal. There's no such thing as it's only true for this group. It's a bizarre idea. It's like saying, if you're into classical music, Beethoven is only good for Germans. That's such an idiocy. People all over the world love Beethoven. They don't love Beethoven more in Germany than they do in Japan, which is not part of the Western culture. They're crazy about Beethoven in Japan. I remember, because when I was a kid, I've always been into classical music. So my first visit to Tokyo, I was in my 20s, and I went to buy a ticket to Beethoven's, I don't remember which of Beethoven's symphonies. And the guy spoke a tiny bit of English, and I asked, so can I buy a ticket? And he said, there is one seat left. You are very lucky. And I will so remember that. It was so sweet, because L is not apparently part of the Japanese language, so it comes out as an R. And so I'll never forget being called Rucky. It was a very beautiful moment. I couldn't have gotten two seats. Americans and others have their own idiosyncrasies when they try to obviously pronounce other languages. Like Westerners have a very hard time, well, many Westerners, all Americans and Brits, with ch, as in Hanukkah. It's a fun one to try to get a non-Jew or a non-Arab to say Hanukkah. Can you say Hanukkah?
Hanukkah.
Very good. That was not bad at all. Most people say Hanukkah or something, or Hanukkah, H. Anyway, so welcome indeed. I got one quick opening thought for you. Actually, I had a few already, but here's one. I've often described the great difference between a religious education and a secular education in the West today as the following. Because I had a religious education till I was 18. Half the day I would study in Hebrew Jewish religious texts, and then the other half of the day, everything else secular in English. And I remember concluding afterwards, many years later actually, that I didn't realize this until maybe 20 years later. The great difference is in religious, Christian, Jewish education, I mean truly religious. Was he checking the fire out? You learn that the greatest problem in your life is you. I learned the greatest problem in Dennis Prager's life is Dennis Prager. In secular education now, you learn that the greatest problem in your life is your society. For American kids, that means America. You don't have to battle yourself. You have to battle America with its racism and sexism and misogyny and bigotry and xenophobia and homophobia and transphobia. That's what you're taught. And then you think you're a good person because, hey, you're battling this terrible society called America. But you're not. You're actually not, you're probably not such a good person. A, you're not battling you, and I don't know how you become a good person if you don't battle yourself. And B, you're battling a basically decent society. So you're doing harm in both ways. You're not battling you, and you are battling something good. That's big. That's why I gave my kids a religious education. Even if you're an atheist, you should send your kids to a religious school over a secular school just so that they learn to battle themselves. I knew at a very young age my nature was really, really flawed. Do you learn that in a secular school? Of course not. It's not even taught. It's not mentioned. Hey, you're your biggest problem. That's why Jordan Peterson, who's a terrific human being, that's why his notion, make your own bed, has become such a big sort of, what shall we say, message. Make your own bed? What's so big about that? Because of what it means. First, make your own bed. Then you can go out into the world. Change you first. Especially if you live in a relatively decent society. I mean, if you live in an evil world, it's different. But America's not evil. So it's a very bad message that you don't have to battle you, but you have to battle America. Anyway, I wanted to open up with that because that's key. To spend your life battling you, your heart, your appetites, your instincts, your desires. Doesn't mean they're all suppressed. That's crazy. Then you just blow up somewhere else. But you got to. It's what I call the brain versus the mind. The brain is animal, the mind is human. Everything is a brain-mind battle. So, just thought I'd offer you that opening thought. So we open now with questions via video, right? All right, let's press the magic button, and we'll see who it is. Take it away.
Hey Dennis, Jared Rodriguez here. I'm 20 years old and I attend the University of Florida in Gainesville. You should totally come visit us. The Turning Point chapter would love to have you. But as you may already know, Kanye West just released his new Christian gospel album, which is great. It's fire. You should totally listen to it if you get the chance. But my question to you is, do you think he's being authentic in coming out as a Christian? And also, what do you think this means for the culture?
Great, Jared. Thank you. To answer your first part, I would love to come to the University of Florida. Let's try to arrange it. And for all of you, there is nothing more meaningful to me than speaking on college campuses. Because I know that in so many instances, it is the first time hundreds and hundreds of students are hearing these ideas. And then they get to challenge me, and that's my favorite. I always say, if you don't agree with me, line up first at the microphone. And I never yell at a student or not even non-students. I just don't yell at people. But it is great to have people who don't agree with me spontaneously come forth, because then you can see the authenticity of what I believe. Oh, let's hear it challenged, which is what I want. Let's have it challenged, and here is a response. So I'd love to come. What do I think of Kanye West, and do I think that it's authentic? His conversion to Christianity is authentic. Well, none of us can ever judge anybody else's conversion. But we can judge the authenticity of their commitment over time. The conversion is immediate. There's nothing for us to know. But hey, I agree 100% with the New Testament idea that by their fruit you shall know them. I believe that's the way it's written, right? That's correct. You know the tree by the fruit that it produces. And as a Jew, since I don't judge people and don't believe God does by their theology, but by their behavior, that's all that matters. If you convert to Christianity and it doesn't change your behavior, I don't mean become saint, become an angel. You'll still sin, but where there's an obvious greater kindness, commitment to justice, fighting real evil, not make-believe evils, that's great. That's just great. That's the only way to know. If you convert and you just feel good about your conversion, but it doesn't reflect in your behavior. I'll give you an example of a behavior that people don't think about, but I have actually written about it. You could see it on the internet. Just type in Dennis Prager, the storekeeper law. This is one of my favorite rules in Judaism. If you enter a store, you're not allowed to ask the storekeeper the price of an item if you know you're not going to buy the item, because you're not allowed to raise the hopes of the storekeeper for no reason. That is one fantastic law. Do you know how many people today will go to a store and let's say they want to buy a big screen, a TV, right? And what they'll do is they'll go to a store that sells them, take a half hour of the salespeople's time to see, oh, well, I want this feature. Let me compare this brand to this brand, and then order it on the internet because they're going to save some money. That's immoral. You are using people and taking their time. It is just as if you had robbed from them. That's what it is. Now, that doesn't mean every time you go to a store you have to buy something. It means you can't go to the store knowing in advance that you're not going to buy what you talk to them about. That's a very beautiful rule. And that's just a little tiny example of what I mean by, are you becoming a better person after your conversion experience? Whatever the religion is, are you better? Not are you perfect, not are you an angel, but are you just better? But if you're not, what was the conversion about? To make you feel good? Purpose of religion isn't to make you feel good. That is a byproduct, which is wonderful, but it's not the purpose. The purpose is to have you walk in God's ways, which is to be a good human being. So that's how you know. Then it seems to be a real conversion. All righty. Oh, you said, and what does this mean for the culture? It could be a lot. The movement of especially minorities and especially pop stars back to traditional values would be phenomenal for the culture. What do I mean by traditional value? Well, in the religious sphere, that you might want to consult the Bible before you judge something. In other words, hey, that's a pretty wise book. What does it say? I know this sounds so corny to so many of you because you've been indoctrinated by secular schools your whole life. So you think that a person who consults the Bible is a simpleton. But the simpletons are the people at the universities, not the people who consult the Bible. Not everybody who consults the Bible is a giant. I know that. But anyone who's prepared to say, you know what, there's a wiser thing than me, I'd like to know what it has to say. That's a good sign. That's a traditional value. Here's another traditional value. Before you have children, you get married. Okay, that's a good one. You work hard. You don't expect benefits. You expect obligations. That's a huge change if you're a better person. Not what can the state do for me, but what can I do for my neighbor? Not what can the state do for my neighbor. What can I do for my neighbor? That was a traditional value in American life. Read Alexis de Tocqueville, the brilliant French thinker who came to the United States, and he realized the strength of America is its non-governmental institutions. And they've been destroyed in the last 50 years. As the government gets bigger, the Rotary clubs get smaller. The churches get smaller. The government is like the blob. It just devours everything around it. But these little organizations, the book club, the bowling league, the men's club and women's club at the church or the synagogue, these were America's strengths. One day, in the near future, I'm going to write a column on what does Make America Great Again mean? What does it mean to me? I don't know what it means to others. I could say what it means to me. And it would include making all these organizations that are non-governmental strong again. All right, next, Mario, 25, Zagreb, Croatia. Hi, Dennis. This is more of a plea than a question, but I'm sure you will not refuse me. I am a great admirer of yours and of PragerU, and so is the girl I would like to call for a date. That is immediately a good sign. Immediately. Will you call this girl, and he puts her name in. I won't say the name. Should I say the name? Yeah? But it's not going to embarrass her? I'm debating here.
Requesting you to.
Well, maybe she'll just get a kick out of it. Okay. Anna wrote him to date for me. Will I call the girl Anna to a date for you? Thank you. God bless. Well, that wouldn't be a good idea. Oh, I see, because she admires me, so it shows you had clout. Maybe that's it? Ah, now I get it. Well, yeah, that could be effective. I can't do it, obviously, because I don't know you well enough. How do I know you're not a mass murderer? I don't think you are. But I'm just saying I can't do it, but it is an adorable request. And anyway, you didn't give me her phone number.
Maybe they want you to call on her, like, hey, you.
Oh, right now. Oh, because she's watching. Mm-hmm. Okay. So where is he? Mario wants a date with you, Anna. I cannot vouch for him, but I think it's very cute. If you like me, you like PragerU, he likes me, and he likes PragerU. It means you do have a lot in common. Now, by the way, having a lot in common doesn't mean you're a perfect match. Okay? There are people who have a lot in common, and they're not going to be necessarily a great married couple. But it means something. So let me know what happens. That's cute. God, arranging a date in Zagreb from my home in California. This is a new world. By the way, I want everybody to get married. So you actually hit a sort of sweet spot in me. Rami, 11 years old, Youngstown, Ohio, USA. I know you explained this for college students, but how do I survive middle school as a conservative? I don't know if I explained it for college students, and it wouldn't be any different in middle school. You have to stand for what you believe in while trying not to alienate people. So you have to do it in a non-belligerent manner, but you still have to be able to argue your position rationally. That's how you do it. It's not easy, especially at 11. I mean, how much knowledge could you have by 11? But that I don't. The worst thing is to hide who you are. Now, it is good if people get to know you first, because the indoctrination has been that conservatives are mean people. So once it's established that, hey, Rami is a nice guy, good guy, then you could gradually let them know that you believe 2 and 2 is 4, which is what conservatism really is. It's just logic. It just makes common sense. But I don't think it's a good idea to just survive. I think you have to stand for what you do and get ready to be, on occasion, even hated. There's never been a time in history where people have fought for what is right and not been hated. The day that comes, mankind will be in some paradisical situation. Lucas, 26, Coral Springs. What's our time here?
20.
Lucas, 26, Coral Springs, Florida. My wife recently gave birth to our first son. Congratulations. And I'm glad you're having one young. It's good. You'll see later how good that is. What advice would you give to new fathers? I would give the advice of, then he has more questions, so I'll start with one at a time. What advice would I give a new father? I would give you the advice of take care of your wife. Don't forget that, and the wife should take care of you, as it is very tempting to concentrate and focus entirely on the new baby. That's a mistake. You didn't marry just to have babies. You married to be each other's companions. Don't forget that ever. And it's good for the kid to see the parents getting along. How can I instill good character and work ethic into my son? By being a model and by teaching them. One is not enough. A lot of parents think, oh, well, I'll just be a good model. That's naive. There are too many good parents with kids with screwed up values. Anyway, I always gave this example. If you're a good pianist, do you have to teach your child piano? Why not? Why not just be a good model pianist? Well, it's absurd, right? Your child watching you play piano is not going to become a pianist. They need lessons in piano. People need lessons in goodness. Goodness is the most complex subject you'll ever study. It's more complex in many ways, and certainly harder, just in terms of difficulty, than quantum physics. That's just the way it's just the way it works. Than string theory. That taxes the mind, but it could be mastered. This involves your whole character, your conscience, your brain versus your mind. You've got to teach your child. Your child has to say thank you whenever a decent thing is done for him or her. That is so big. Gratitude is the mother of decency. It's also the mother of happiness. That's how important gratitude is. One bonus question. At what age should I allow my son to use social media? Thank you, Dennis. Your videos have truly helped shape my worldview. Good. That's why I'm here. I want to shape your worldview. I have no interest in power. That's why I didn't run for office, but I have great interest and influence. I want to touch people's lives. So let's see here. What age should you allow your son to use social media? I have no idea. I really don't, because I don't think there's a fixed answer. It depends on the child. If the child is fixated on it, or in other words, if it's the center of your child's life, then you'll have to remove a lot of it. If it's part of your child's life and it's not used for bad things, I don't see a big issue there. It depends what they're doing. Everything is context. I mean, you would acknowledge if your child is, looking up Shakespeare and wanting to master, let's say, King Lear, I don't think you'd have a problem, right, with social media. So it depends what your child is writing. And by the way, I tell you this on the social media. It's, tell your kid you will not allow, if your kid curses in social media, you will take away the phone. That's a good way of inculcating good values. I totally get it that people will use expletives periodically, telling a joke or making an emphatic statement, but not in writing. That is a bad thing, and social media involves that, and videos, etc. Okay, let's see here. Mike, 55, Camarillo, California. Hi, Dennis. I have listened to your radio show since the early 1980s. Have you ever changed your position on a major issue? Thanks. I get this question a lot, and it's a very fair question. There are people who have changed my mind on the spot on my radio show. They have made a compelling point, and then I just go, "You're right." I have zero problem with saying I was wrong. The last thing I want to ever do is repeat being wrong. So I am totally okay with saying, "Whoops, yep, your point is well taken." The biggest one that I guess I remember, and I may be wrong, I'd have to think this through at great length. When in my early years, I never thought about abortion. It just didn't register on my moral scale. And over time, I realized it was a serious issue. That I would say was a fairly significant change. By the way, I'm not alone. I think a lot of Americans have undergone a similar metamorphosis as the heartbeat of a child at an even younger age becomes evident, as we have pictures of the baby or fetus at a very early age and so on. Okie dokie.
Hey Dennis, you never talked about what your moral dilemma was at death row.
Oh, all right. Let me end with that. That's an interesting one. I mentioned, but Megan said that I left her hanging. She's been hanging so long, she's had a tracheotomy. This is a problem. And what I left her hanging with was this. I was invited to go to the biggest state prison in America, Angola State Prison, in the state of Louisiana a number of years ago. And it was an unbelievable day. It was a very powerful day. I was among murderers all day. And I never felt safer in my life. The warden of that penitentiary was or is an extraordinary man who was a Christian and introduced biblical principles. Don't curse was the number one. This man took the most violent prison in the United States. There were more murders at Angola than anywhere else, Angola State Prison, and made it into one of the safest prisons for guards and prisoners in the United States. And one of the things he banned was cursing. He gave them the ability to get degrees in theology. I was with a lot of guys who got advanced degrees, masters or doctorates in theology. And you should have seen the change in these people. While, by the way, the reason it's not better known is that he used religion to improve the situation. And the secular media don't like to see, to give publicity to something like that. Anyway, I was invited even to visit death row. These are men in cells, theoretically waiting for execution. I say theoretically because most of them don't in fact take place. But they were convicted murderers, and usually with special circumstances, torture or premeditation in the extreme or whatever it might have been. So I walked in and I saw human beings, obviously. And they go, "Hello," and they offer their hand through the cell. And I remember thinking beforehand, do I shake their hands? Do I shake the hands? Do I say, "Nice to meet you," to a murderer? And you know what I thought? I thought, what would the relatives and friends of the murdered think, seeing me, buddy with their son's murderer, their daughter's rapist murderer? That's what went through my mind. How would the relatives of the deceased feel seeing me buddy, cordial, nice to meet you? What do I say? But on the other hand, what am I going to say when I go in there? Drop dead? Right? I mean, I didn't know. There was no good answer in my mind. Sometimes it's enough to struggle with an issue. Not every issue has a resolution. But that was my struggle. Do I even say, "Hi, nice to meet you"? I can't say it's nice to meet a murderer. It's a little bizarre. And I kept thinking the biggest thought in my mind was the person they murdered. But to give you an idea of what, and I wish I remembered his name right now. I want to look it up. Warden, Louisiana State, Angola State Prison. I think it's Buck something, but the man's an amazing man, what he was able to do there. I asked one man there I was standing next to. I said, what are you in for? He was in charge of a car repair place in a body shop in the prison. Said, I'm here for murder. And how long is your sentence? Life sentence. Said, so does, you feel bad about that? Or something like that. And he said, I'll tell you what I feel bad about. I feel bad for the relatives and loved ones of the guy I murdered. That's when I knew this warden had transformed people, that he could answer that question, that it bothered him more, the pain he caused the loved ones of the man he murdered, than the fact that he would be in prison the rest of his life. Burl Cain. That's it. B-U-R-L, Cain. That is a great man. He would be very famous in America, were it not for the secular press not wanting to show that religion could be used to solve big problems. Well, it can. Anyway, great to be with you. On behalf of Otto and the rest of the gang, thanks a lot. What can I remind you? See my movie, No Safe Spaces, and check out the Rational Bible in light of what I just said about religion giving answers. That's my attempt to give you answers. Okay, everybody, thanks a lot. See you next week. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to keep these Fireside Chats free, please do by donating to PragerU.